Hi everyone, it's Nick here to do another general reading. Today I'm going to be doing one for my friend Ashley, who I went to college with, which I just graduated from actually. Woo! Very excited about that. So I'm just going to do a very general reading for her using Crowley's Tarot, which I work more in than Rider-Waite. And yeah, I'm just going to do a general Celtic. So I've already shuffled the cards. Okay, so Ash, you have the Eight of Discs in the center, crossed by the Knight of Cups. The root of the situation is the Chariot. The immediate past is the Ten of Cups. What you know, what your higher aspirations are, the Eight is the Eight of Swords. And your immediate future is the Two of Cups. How you see yourself is the Prince of Discs. Your environmental factors are the Eight of Cups. Your hopes and fears, more rational aspirations, are represented by the Nine of Wands. And the final overall outcome is the Queen of Wands. Okay. And underneath it all is temperance, or art in this case. Okay, so right from the get-go, you are currently focusing mostly on work. That's sort of obvious to me. You see yourself as the Prince of Discs and someone who's really motivated mostly by practical things, really getting down to the nitty-gritty of labor, whatever it is you're doing. I'm not really sure if you're. It almost seems like you're looking more for a more practical job in some ways. Maybe you're moving in that sort of direction. You could, because you have a lot of water too. It could be that you're also trying to apply that sense of pragmatism to your relationships as well. I see that you've sort of in the past you've had a very solid relationship in some way, but I think maybe you see it as a time to move beyond that in some ways. There's a sense of community in the past, maybe relying on friendships or developing a strong communal friendship bond with people. But now it's like you want to pursue something better than that, almost more idealistic. Either that, I mean, I tend to, since it's in the center here, crossing you, I see the Knight of Cups more as an extension of you, sort of as a problem, an extension of your, sorry, my computer's going dark, an extension of yourself that's kind of getting in your own way. And the Knight of Cups is someone who tends to overreach themselves in a way. They have really idealistic ambitions and dreams, and they kind of chase after them kind of sporadically. And so it's weird, it's sort of interesting that you have sort of your two minds really with this. In some ways you want to really kind of be more practical and more make decisions that make more sense, in that respect. And then on the other hand, you also have sort of a driving spirit in that sense. The Chariot as the root of the situation is particularly interesting as a source of sort of willpower and dominance and a strong desire to like move and enter some sort of new situation. I mean, it also represents success too, so I think you also see yourself as kind of having outgrown what you're doing in some ways. Like you feel maybe that you've already mastered that, and now it's time for you to move on to something different. It's like you're hearing the call to do something different, and maybe you're kind of working out what exactly that is. If I read the Knight of Cups as a person, I mean, traditionally we would say the Knight of Cups is a fair, older man, you know, someone who is a little mature than maybe someone our age, you know, 21. So maybe this is someone more, you know, 30 up, who, I mean, you may be interested in some way. I mean, it's weird. I think that this is another thing where you're sort of two minds. You know, I think in the past this is someone, if it is a person that you've had some sort of strong relationship with, you know, because they're both the Knight of Cups is a Pisces, and the Ten of Cups is a Piscean card too, and so they're sort of connected. They're you know, it's like you've had a good relationship with this person, you consider them your friend, but you know, maybe in other ways they want to push you into doing something more, and you're kind of like digging your heels in a way. You want to be the one in control of this situation, and you don't want to let it, you know, get out of hand in some way. Okay. Uh, yeah, and I mean, I think you're being fairly stubborn with that too. It's something that you kind of habitually do. You know, the Prince of Discs is someone who's very like cut and dry, I think, and doesn't really get too hung up over his emotions, and is sort of just really has his eye on the practical end of things. And you know, of course, the Eight of Discs is the Lord of Prudence, and that's what you have in your center card, kind of characterizing you as a whole and the situation as a whole. You know, so that's really where you are right now. What your higher self is saying through the Eight of Swords, I think that's sort of interesting. You know, you have a lot of eights. You have 3 eights, and the only 8 that's missing is the Eight of Wands. And I mean, I would say that in some ways you're sort of maybe thinking about some sort of, you're like waiting for some sort of communication or something, or in some way you want things to happen really quickly. Like you're I think you're getting kind of restless, and I think that that's perfectly noticeable by your environmental card, the Eight of Cups, with indolence. You know, which is sort of like it's really dried up for you at this point. Like, you know, being another Piscean card, it's sort of like your relationship either with this man or with others around you has sort of just suddenly left you kind of stale, and you don't really have the desire to invest in it anymore, I think. You know, I think you're focusing more on yourself and what works better for you, first and foremost, which is really good. I think what your highest self in the Eight of Swords may be saying is, you know, watch out that you don't, again, overextend yourself and sort of exceed what is there, what you're capable of, really. You know, it's almost like the Chariot might get a little too, you might get a little overzealous here. And I think it's sort of telling you that if you really kind of keep going this way, you know, that might be something to watch out for, that it might become a little overwhelming, and you might kind of set up too many things at once. The other way I could read this is that, you know, it's never going to really be easy in some ways to make this decision regarding this man, the Knight of Cups, if it is a man. You know, I think the 8 is always sort of about analysis paralysis, is a great phrase for that card. It really is just like having so much on your mind about a single topic that you really can't make any decisions about it at all. You can't act on it. And so you end up feeling really claustrophobic about it. And it's sort of saying that, you know, that being the card of like the best possible outcome, it's kind of like with when it comes to this person, that's the best you're going to get. You know, it's always going to be kind of a lot of issues going on at once, and it's never going to really make you feel free or comfortable. It's not a relationship that functions easily for you. There are a lot of hiccups to it. And I think some of it does have to do with your sense of independence, and you know, it's ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is definitely a part of the Chariot as well. And so, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if that's, you know, like, I think that's also the problem though too, because, you know, and also knowing you, you're a very gregarious person, and you're very kind, And I think in some ways you want to cater to this person, but you at the same time you're very independent and you have very strong sets of self, and you also want to adhere to that. So it's like trying to maintain both at the same time is always going to be sort of a paralyzing action for you, which is unfortunate because if I think I know who this is, then that's it's a shame. It really is. But you know, I do see in your immediate future you have the Two of Cups, which is the Lord of Love, and I'm curious about that because I can't really say if it's love from a new quarter or not. Your horizontal plane here, the Ten of Cups, the Knight of Cups, and then the Two of Cups, they're so interconnected that I don't really know if I can say that this is, the start of a relationship with someone else that's going to really, be different from him. I think it's sort of related to the same situation, and I think that in some ways you're going to want to sort of restart your relationship with this person in a way that's a little deeper again. It's sort of like you want to restart. And I don't really know how successful that's going to be. It's tough. I'm going to have to draw more cards, I think, for the end, for the Queen of Wands here. Anywho, your hopes and fears, what your sort of your more rational goals, what you expect to get out of it, is the Nine of Wands, and that sort of, speaks to what I was saying as far as like it's never going to really be easy. I think that it's something that you're going to have to struggle with in a way. It's something that is always going to be kind of complicated, and you almost just have to deal with it and bear with it. It's interesting that it's the sun, it's the moon in Sagittarius rather, and you are a Sagittarius, and I think the Nine of Wands also represents that sort of drive you have as represented by the Chariot here too. Like you're always willing, you're always going to be willing to go the distance, and maybe that's sort of what this is here too. As I was saying before, a desire to move. You may be looking to move to a new location too, and maybe part of you is expecting to like just deal with whatever issues come up with that, and just taking them in stride, as I know you would. Your final outcome is the Queen of Wands, and she's one of my favorite court cards in the tarot, and she's a figure who sort of describes you perfectly, but I always associate her with a very magnetic, attractive force. She's kind of got an ego, and at the same time she can be a very nurturing person, but she's always sort of got to be in the limelight. And so I think the ultimate end of this is sort of like you are always going to be attractive to this person. You are always going to be someone that he thinks is really great. And that's wonderful in and of itself, but I think we have to watch out that you don't let it go to your head, first of all, but that you also don't necessarily let it guide your decisions. It's not necessarily the best thing just because this person makes you feel like $1,000,000. It's not necessarily the practical thing for you to do. And I think right now you have an opportunity to really see what is practical for you. I think you have a window of opportunity here through what it is you're doing materially, whatever tasks it is you're doing. I think that's very important to focus on right now. The other thing that sort of confirms all this is the Eight of Swords is your only air card, and so as far as focus is concerned, that's like not a particularly good card to have. So your overall focus is sort of very jumbled because of this, and it's going to make it difficult for you to make decisions effectively based on your in regards to your career. And other things that you care about. You also are sort of kind of drained on creative potential here too with your only 2 wands, and one of them is the Nine